the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, just Daf It. Today we're doing the Daf It Gittin, Daf number 26. Talk about writing part of a get in advance. Are you allowed to write part of a get in advance? What about monetary documents, write part of it in advance? The main part you leave out until the actual people are part of the transaction or part of the get are known. Let's start the Mishnah. If you're writing, you're a scribe, you want to write a get, you want to have gittin in advance ready. So you write the basic words of the document, which outline basically what happens when a get is given. But you don't write, you have to leave the place for the name of the man, a place for the name of the woman, and also a place for the time. Like we explained earlier, why you write the Zman in a get. Shtari Milve, you wanted to write the outline of a loan document. Place for the name of the lender, the borrower. Makom Hamos, place for the amount of money that was borrowed. Makom Hazman. Again, you want to be accurate the date that I was borrowed on. Shtari Mekach, Shtarim Adid, basically attest that land was sold. Halov, Makom Halokeach, a place for the person who bought it. Makom HaMocher, the name of the person who sold it. Makom HaMos, a name for the amount of money. Makom HaSada, where exactly the field is. Makom HaZman, a place, the date where the sale took place. Now these words, the Gemara is going to explain, because the Takana, what does that mean? Rabbi Yehuda Posel, B'chulin, Yossi does not allow you to write these tofsin, to write these blank documents where you're leaving out the important part, but you're writing the rest of the document. Rabbi Lezer allows you to do it in all cases, except for gittim of women. The monetary documents, yes, but gittin not. Shenemar of a cost of law. It has to be written according to Rabbi Lezer. We learned the words of a cost of law. The ksiva of the get has to be lishma. Now we learned earlier that according to Rabbi Lezer, only really the torif, the main part of the get, has to be written lishma. What he means over here, as the Gemara is going to explain, is a gzeira, the tofes, out to the Torah, because you write the tofes, not lishma, then you're going to maybe write the Torah, the main part, not lishma. The Gemara is Zamar of Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Sarah Sheniach Av Makom Harayat Mutar Zakal Adam. Part of the Torah is writing the words Harayat Mutar Zakal Adam, which has to be written lishma. You have to leave that also. The Amar Einim Sir Garsar, our Mishnah follows Bin Rabbi Lezer, who says that the important witnesses are not the ones who sign the document, but the ones who actually witnesses it being given over. Therefore, if you write the get lishma, because of law, you write lishma, even if there's no witnesses on it, as long as witnesses saw the transaction of the get, it's okay. But also realize it needs ksiva lishma. But obviously, because of law, it has to be written for her. That's going on the writing of the get. So therefore, according to the Torah, the main part of the get has to be written lishma. The sricha. Now, this is the third time Shmuel has said a Mishnah follows Rabbi Lezer, which usually means that he holds like Rabbi Lezer. We had a Mishnah in the Chav Aleph, which says also that if you write a get when it's mechuber lakarka, it's good if you only wrote the tofes. If you left out the main part and then you detached and then you wrote the main part lishma, then it would be good, like Rabbi Lezer. He also said a Mishnah on Daf Chav Beis is like Rabbi Lezer. Talking about a case. Everyone's kosher to write a get, even a shota. How could a shota write a get? Talking about a shota wrote everything except the Torah, the makom the Torah, because that needs to be written lishma according to Rabbi Lezer. So you need all three cases. And here Shmuel again says our Mishnah follows Rabbi Lezer. But sricha, you need all three cases. The Yashbin Hakamaisa, which is the first case about mechuber. There we forced to say. Shmuel's forced to say the Mishnah accords to Rabbi Lezer. Tani and Kosvin. First, the Mishnah starts off saying you don't write again on mechuber. The Kazani Kosvu, the next line says in the Mishnah over there, if you wrote it, Kosvu, right? So you have to explain that, but the evidence works. Not supposed to, but the evidence works because of Rabbi Lezer, because he wrote the Tofes and not the Torah. Aval Seifa, the second case, Chav Beis, Kazani She'ein Kiyum Aget Ala B'Chosamav. Or the Mishnah ends off that the kiyum of get is with the signature. I would say that Mishnah follows Reb Meir. He's Amar Edi Chasima Karsi. And therefore he informs you, no, it's really Rabbi Lazar. Right? And it's talking about the Shota who wrote it. He wrote only the non-important part of the get, but the important part of the get he left out. And a regular person wrote it, who knew how to mechav in Lishma. If we just say the second case, that we say like follows Rabbi Lazar. But in our Mishnah here on Chavav, Hema would say for Rabbi Lazar actually is recorded in our Mishnah at the end of the Mishnah. Heavy racial Rabbi Lazar. We would say at the beginning of our Mishnah, not Rabbi Lazar, Shricha. That's why he has to tell that our Mishnah, according to Rabbi Lazar, the Gemara is going to ask Rabbi Lazar. There's two opinions about Rabbi Lazar, right? Which one did he hold? Like they're contradictory. The Gemara will ask that question on Amud Beis. The Mishnah says because of a takana. My takana. What was the takana? What was the institution they had to do? Amar Yonasan. To help out sofrim, scribes, right? They should be able to write things. They shouldn't have to do all the work right when the get is needed. They should have it prepared, most of it in advance. Rabbi Lazar, it follows Rabbi Lazar's opinion. The Amar Edim Asira Karsi, who holds that the Kosovo law is going on the writing of the get, not the chasimus, not the signatures like our mayor. And the important aim are not the signatures, the people who saw the handing over the get. Really, according to Rabbi Lazar, even the non-important part of the get, he shouldn't be writing, right? Because there's a gzeira, if you write the tofis, you might write the torah, shlo lishma. When we shouldn't takana sofrim, sharu rabbanim, because the sofrim should have time on their hands, they should be able on their free time to write the basic outline. They allowed them to write it even beforehand. Rabbi Yehuda posel b'chul. The Mishnah continues. Rabbi Yehuda says all in our apostle. Gazer tofis atu torah. He says by gittin nashim it's a problem because if you write the tofis without knowing who you're writing it for, you might write the Torah without knowing who you're writing it for. Gazer shtaros atu gittin. He also made a gzeira of monetary documents because of gittin. Now, obviously, monetary documents, there's no din of lishma, so you don't have to write it lishma. But if we're making by other shtaros, a monetary document, we make it by gittin. V'lezer machsher bekula and chutz begittin nashim. Then the Mishnah ends off. V'lezer allows all of them except gittin nashim. Toved adu Torah of Gazar, Shar Sadiq and Lo Gazar. He made one gezerah by Gittin Nashim. If you write the Tovas, you marry the Torah, Shlo Lishma. But to make a gezerah, other shtaros he was not willing to do. Shenemar Rakasavla, the Mishnah ends off. Brother says Shenemar Rakasavla, Haki Ksiv La Atorah Hu Diksiv. Right, Elazar says Gittin Nashim you can't write. You can't write these pre-advanced shtaros because where Gozer the Tovas atu the Torah. Kasavla is not the reason you can't. It's like Zer Rabbanan. It's not Midoraisa. Ela Ema Mishum Shenemar Kasavla Lishma. Add in the words Mishum Shenemar because there's a din of Lishma. So if you write the Tofes, the non-important part, Shalol Lishma, you might come to write the Torah of Lishma. Shalol Lishma. So the Gemara Chavav Beis says Kasha Drelezer. Right? According to Shmuel, says the first part of Mishnah Drelezer, and he was not goes to the Tofes after the Torah. Right, takana, like we learned, and then at the end says we are goes to the Torah, Tofis out of the Torah, Gittin Nashim. So when it says Trey Tanai Vali with the Rabbi Lazar, there's two Tanoim who have different opinions of Rabbi Lazar's opinion was. Do you make a Gzeira or not? Rab Shapsai Marchizkia, he says a different explanation than takana. Mishum Katata, so he shouldn't fight. That was takana. Rameir here, our Mishnah actually accords Rameir, not a Rabbi Lazar. The Amar Edim Chasim Al Karsi. The main tzivul in terms of a law, that's going on the signatures. The signees of the get have to do it lishma, and that is what makes the get the signatures. And really, technically, the ksiva of the get doesn't make a difference according to Rambam. You don't have to write the get lishma. Even the main part of the get does not have to be written lishma. I can have a bunch of getting with all the different names of different people, different male names and women's names, and that's okay. And you can write the Torah. V'zimnin the shamalei l'sofer the kaksiv. Sometimes a woman might hear the scribe writing, and he's writing a lot of different gittin with different types of names. It might be her name and her husband's name. And if we allow him to write the Torah, the Savra Iyu, the Kamarle, she thinks that her husband instructed the scribe to write it, and he wants to divorce her. She's going to get into a big fight with him, maybe actually divorce her. So therefore, to prevent that, we don't let them write a Torah. They can write the Tofes, not the Torah. Rav Chisda Amar, Avimi, a different explanation. Mishum takana. Mishum takana aguna. So a woman shouldn't not have husbands. Amrila Rav Meir. Amrila Rav Lazar. Some say you can say this explanation according to Rav Meir. Our Mishnah according to Rav Meir, or you can say that our Mishnah according to Rav Lazar. Still, it would make sense both according to both of them. Amrila Rav Meir. The Amr Edim is Chasim Akar. According to Rav Meir, the main Eidim are the ones that sign the document. Really, you can even write the Torah. Again, law the Shema is only on the Chasim and not on the Ksiva. The whole Ksiva can show the Shema. Something the man will be in a fight with his wife. He'll get very angry. If it's already prepared, you don't have to write anything. He'll throw it to her. She's going to be without a husband. Really, they could have reconciled, but now the get is ready, so therefore she'll become an aguna. She won't have a husband. Amri lo Rebbe Lezer, you could say this explanation follows Rebbe Lezer. The Amri Masira Karsi, but they know that feel the Tofis down with the lichta. Really, you shouldn't even write the Tofis because make a gzera the Tofis after the Torah. But the boy sometimes the husband wants to go overseas, and he won't find a scribe that has to, because he's not going to have time to write the entire get. The Shavikla, he'll leave her. V'azil Ma'agin is going to spend many years overseas, go to war overseas, and his wife will never get a get. Therefore, they're allowed to write the Torah, the Mosif law. Therefore, they allowed him to write the Tofes, so the get should be ready quicker. Should be able to give it to him before he leaves overseas. Makom Azman. A space was needed to leave over for the Zman and the get. Kapasik Vatani Loshna Min Anisu and Loshna Min Eris doesn't distinguish whether the get is ending a marriage or merely ending an engagement. We had a machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. What's the reason they're owed Zman? Rabbi Yochanan says the reason is because of basachoso. Right? We're worried if the get is predated, right? He's gonna use a get that was predated because he'll have mercy on his niece who he's married to, who committed adultery. Right? But he's going to still predate the get to save her. So we don't want that to happen. The reason a predated get is not good is because the man, while he's married, is entitled to the payros. He could even sell those payros. He owns the payros. He's entitled to eat them. If a predated get is used, it'll force him to repay what really was his. Ella min ha'erisin. Of course, if you say the Mishnah is talking about erisin also, which seems to indicate that it is, Bishlam Lamanda Amar Mishum Basachoso Ika, right? There's still adultery from engagement. Elamandar Mishum Piri Arusa Meisla Piri. There's no question of payros over here because the husband only gets payros to eat the payros of the wife's property when they're married, not when they're engaged. Amar Amram Hamilsa Shamis Mene the Ula. Ramar answers, I heard something from Ula Dar Mishum Takanas Vlad because of fixing the disgrace of a child. I didn't know what he was talking about. I came in the Shamisa Lahaditanya, heard a Brisa. Omer Kisvu get Arusasi. He says to a sofa, write a get for my Arusa, a woman I just got engaged to. When I marry her, I plan on divorcing her. Ain't no get. The get cannot be used. What's the reason the Rabban invalidated that get? Really is going to marry her and I'll divorce her. But people, when they hear that he already said he's going to write a get when he's getting engaged to her, they'll think that they got divorced. And then she has a child, right? They'll think the child is from someone else. That after she got divorced from her husband, she went ahead and she was mazana. She was a prostitute. She was together with another man who wasn't her husband, and it'll be a disgrace for the husband. So here also the reason they wrote Zman, even in the case of the Eriston, even Reish Lakish should be moda over here. There's a reason to write it because the get, if it's written too early, if it's predated, right, it might end up being that she'll have a child, really while she was married, but the predated get will indicate that she had the child when she was divorced, and people will say bad things of the child that the mother went ahead and was promiscuous. Amar of Zera, Amar of Abba, Bar Shela, Amar of Hamnuna, Asab, Amar of Ada, Bar Abba, Amar Rab, Halacha Karalaja, Halacha Falash, Abelazar, Ede, Mesira Karsi, Karav, Rav Aled, Abelazar, Tuvina de Chachimai. Abelazar was considered the best of the wise men. Rafil Bashar Shtaros Nami. Does that mean to say that we paskin like him by other shtaros also? Meaning what? We paskin like Rabbi Lezer in our Mishnah that you could write the Tofes, like the first opinion of Rabbi Lezer, the first Tanaik opinion of Rabbi Lezer, that you could write the Tofes of Gittin. A scribe could have Tofes Gittin written, again, because we're not goes to the Tofes out of the Torah. Does he even, we paskin like him even by monetary documents? But Amarav Papa Mishmei the Rav, Haya Shar to the Daini. Right? We know by Dini Mamas you have to be Makayim the Shtar. The myth of Makami Chasim. So the Beis Din, they want to write that they affirmed that they saw the witnesses came and testified about the signatures on the monetary document. They have to write that. So before they decide they don't have the time, they don't want to wait. They trust that it's a valid shtar, so they write it, and then the witnesses come afterwards, and they want to use that validation. It's psula. That's not a good kiyum shtar. Almo michsi kashikra, because it looks, people will know that the Edom came later, and it looks like, even though it's true, but it looks like sheker. How can I michsi kashikra? Here also, shar shtaros, it looks like sheker. It looks like sheker if you write the tofes, write part of the monetary document before it actually happens. Velesa, the Gemara says it's not true. Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman, Amar Yare Meir. Meir says, I feel if you have a get by a woman, even if you wrote the get, the entire get, and then you signed it. You found it written, and then you signed it lishma, and you gave it to her, it's kosher. That's right. Meir's opinion, Edi Chasima Karsin. The cost of lishma means the chasim, what's the signature. I feel the Rabbanon lo pligi, even the Rabbanon, Rabbi Lezer doesn't argue. The Meir el begidei nashim, right? You need a cost of lo lishma, and the get was not written for this woman, the new woman. Al b'shar shtaros lo, but other shtaros, it wouldn't be a problem. Amar Rasi, Amar Yochanan. How do you know it's true? Shtar shlovabo paro eno chozer v'lovabo. If I lend money to somebody, right? He wrote a document for me that he owes me money, then he paid me back, right? And then he wants to borrow money again. You're not supposed to use the same loan document, same exact money. Borrowed $500. You want to borrow another $500. The reason you shouldn't use it again is because a shtar is only valid once to be called a shtar, a milvah b'shtar. The reason a milvah b'shtar is better than a milvah al peh, right? When you just have witnesses seeing that you gave him the money, as opposed to a document signed that you gave him the money, because a document you collect from the mishubadim, there's a lien on his property. Milvah al peh is not necessarily the right to lien on his property. So the reason you shouldn't use a document is because the shibud only works one time with the document. Time with the nimchal shibud. The reason you shouldn't use a document is the only reason is because you don't have the shibud, the lien on the land, on his property, from a borrower. Mishum shikra lo chayshina, mizlik shikra. You're not worried about the fact that this, you loaned him money last year, now you're loaning him money this year. We're not worried. The only problem is one problem, that you're going to lose out on a lien. But because it looks like sheker, because it's predated, we're not worried about it. So you see, by other shtaros, we're not worried about michsi kashikra. And therefore, according to most Rishonim, the explanation of the Gemara is over here, is that it's not true. That what Rava says about the Dayanim writing a kiyum shtar before the Edom come, we're not worried about that. That's okay. There's no problem with kiyum shtars. Also, we're not worried on the michsi kashikra. That's the explanation of most Rishonim. Tosos has a totally new explanation. I will share that with you and tell you why I think Tosos is correct in Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.